6:38, 22 moving up to 7 o'clock. Welcome back. It's Good Morning Trinidad Tobago for today, Tuesday. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be focusing on crime in this segment as the announcement from the Prime Minister that given a second term for government will take a different approach to crime and look at the root causes of crime in addition to crime suppression and monitoring offences. On set, we have two attorneys at law. One, a former minister in the Ministry of National Security, and the other, a member of the Police Service Commission, both eminently qualified to talk about crime, Mr. Subhash Pandey and Martin Jones. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning to you, Paul, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Let's start with the issue of the approach to crime in any administration. It's always going to be a political hot-button topic. Do you think we as a country, I'll start with Martin on this, are approaching crime from an holistic, progressive way based on what you've seen around the world?
We are not, Paul, and I've said it before, I will say it again. What we need to do is depoliticize the fight against crime. In other words, we need to take it out of the political realm. We need to stop trying to score points with each side, trying to make the other look bad if crime goes up. We need to take, in fact, the Ministry of National Security. The whole idea of national security must be taken out of the hands of the politicians. We have to set up like maybe a national security authority, which would be a statutory authority appointed by the president, whereby you have permanent members who would serve maybe a 3-year term or a 5-year term, depending. Maybe a 3-year term might be better, so that way you will always have overlap from administrations, because the problem has been you've had various administrations. Some of them have had good ideas, some of them have had not so good ideas. But the point is, when a new administration comes in, they usually throw out everything. So both the good and the bad, they're willing to throw away because that was from the previous administration. So the country keeps, you in a cycle of going nowhere quickly. We need to move the whole idea of national security out of the hands of the politicians, create a national security authority, statutory body, which can be staffed by persons, which would then have a board, as I said, appointed by the president, whereby you would now have a non-partisan, non-political approach where you can have comprehensive, continuous planning for long-term security and stability in the country.
This entity that you're describing is accountable to Parliament?
Yes, it has to be.
Mr. Pandey?
That's a utopian situation. We need constitutional reform for that. I made a statement last week which says that in the meantime, what we should do, I totally agree with Martin, that all the parties should come together and decide on a policy. And if you decide on a policy, I say all the various parties in the House, even parties who are not in the House.
Isn't that the utopian situation you're describing? That's kind of naive that you think people are going to put aside political self-interest.
It's possible.
It's possible in our combative,
it's possible.
And with a general
adversarial circumstance?
We have to get rid of the adversarial system. So that when we come and we decide, look, we are going in this direction, according to what Martin says, when a government or regime changes, you don't go in an opposite direction. For example, but you need to inform the whole country, including all the other stakeholders, about it. For example, SORT. When SORT was set up, nobody knew what SORT was about. You got all kind of rumors, for example, a mongoose gang. Speaking about that, you had the blimp. You heard one person said, "Oh, we seen inside the bedroom." The moment they went to the office, blimp went, SORT went. So what we really need is education and sharing of information so that we'll know where we're going. For example, we got rid of the OPVs, 3 OPVs, and now we're going for 12. So the question is, all of us want to solve crime, and but the problem we have is, I want to solve the crime, so I can say you couldn't solve it.
Yeah, and
that's the problem.
And that's the problem. And that's why, Paul, you see, if we have one body that has overall control, that can, as I say, span regimes and span generations of political entities, then you can now have a comprehensive, holistic national policy for crime. In other words, okay, if it is decided that, because basically it's almost like they're both agreeing on the same thing, but I must do it my way and I must get my contractor to supply it. You will want to do it your way and get your contractor. So therefore you will cancel my contract. You will say my contract was no good. And then when you come back in, you will cancel. And this is the kind of folly. This is the kind of folly that the nation has been subjected to by our politicians in terms of the issue
Let's
of crime.
bring the red herring into the conversation.
Yes.
The TT Police Service. The Prime Minister announced that last night that she requested the TT Police Service get their house in order. Yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the murder of Senior Constable Dana Sitahal, which is now in an interesting way and likely because she was always a clarion for justice in Trinidad and Tobago and known profoundly for that, has now become the beacon of accountability for the TT Police Service in terms of the solving of the crime. Governments don't fight crime. They put policy in place, they provide resources. The TT Police Service, at the end of the day, is responsible for detection, identification, solving crime, taking it through to the criminal justice system. How behind are we when we have a situation like this and 125 or 6 other murders unsolved in Trinidad and Tobago when we go back to last year before? The solvency/detection rates are under 5%, etc. And that is something that the population has come to accept while requesting a different kind of approach to crime.
Paul, what I have suggested is that we need to set up, and I mean, unfortunately, the thing is, you see, as we're an evolving nation, we need to assess what we have and look at what we need to get. We need to set up a National Bureau of Investigations, NBI, National Bureau of Investigations, along the lines of how you have the FBI, along the lines of how you have the Scotland Yard. So in other words, you have your regular police service and they will do things to a certain level. But this would be a specialist body that has to be staffed by a mix of international persons and local persons, whereby you bring in maybe some ex-FBI, ex-Scotland Yard persons who can give that kind of training. You get the equipment necessary, and you set this up as a separate unit. So when the police service reaches a brick wall, as it appears they have done in some of the major high-profile cases, then you have the NBI that can come in and take over the investigation. They now come with their specialized skills. So in other words, their focus is only on investigating and solving crimes. So you set this up as a higher body, because I think part of the problem has been that we have basically plateaued in the police service in terms of some of the capabilities, in terms of being able to do that kind of forensic investigation for crimes. There are problems sometimes even when they send stuff to the Forensic Science Center. They wait for weeks, months, sometimes to get back results. Yes, that's right. So in other words, set up this National Bureau of Investigations, whereby they will have their own forensic labs. They will be able to do their testing right there. They would be able to then bring forth the results that we were looking for, because I think that the police service has shown that they are able to do things up to a certain level, but we need now to have a higher intervention. And it's no slur on the police service to have a body such as that. Because what you are doing, you're saying, look, I am now enhancing the capability, but you're taking it out of the remit of the police service, whereby you may have persons within the service who might be frustrated in the investigation.
You say it's not a slur, but it is a slur. Because what you're saying is our police service is incapable of doing the job past a certain level, and we need a stronger expertise
not
and more
necessarily,
mechanism.
because in the same way that you have Scotland Yard set up, I mean, that's not an indictment on the regular police in Britain.
But Mr. Pandey, isn't that saying or not really dealing with the problem of an ineffective police force as it is? And I have no problem with setting up an FBI, a CIA, etc. But we still have to deal with the shortcomings of the police service.
No, but before,
Undoubtedly.
but before we go there, I think SORT, the aim of SORT was to perform that function. For example, when you had firearms being seized on the streets, what they used to do, send to SORT to see if that firearm was used in any murders, so that they could link. I think that SORT was doing that work. However, because it was so politicized, it was destroyed.
And that's the problem. So you see,
was
once you
destroyed.
have the political element, it's always a problem.
Because
but
it's sought, you have
if we
people from
set this up
Scotland Yard.
again, it has to be pulled as a statutory body. That
Yes.
that seems to be the only thing. If you look at the history of Trinidad and Tobago, it's only the statutory bodies through like the service commissions that have shown over time that commitment to basically an overall national view as opposed to partisan politics. And that's where we have to remove national security and crime solving from. We have to
come
remove
back
it
to your
from
point
partisan
about
politics.
the police service. I think we have inherited a colonial police service. And what has happened is that you may come through the ranks and probably get a degree, but you're so deep in the old-time policing, you can't look outside. Maybe the method of recruitment in police service needs to change, and a man probably goes to the law, first becomes qualified, then go into the police service at that level, so you inject new new brain power into the police service. For example, somebody does forensic auditing, and he comes in, he trains like a policeman.
Valid point.
After,
Valid point.
after
Basically,
We're
we've raised
going to
that.
take a break. We're going to take a break. We're talking crime with attorneys at law Subhash Pandey and Martin George. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's Good Morning Trinidad Tobago. We're talking crime with attorneys at law, Subhash Pandey and Martin George. We're going to stay with the Dynasty Town with us as an example, and really, and it has been articulated by several groups, it shouldn't really be about Dynasty Town, but any murder that's taking place in Trinidad Tobago, because we don't want to diminish the value of any other life, so we just want to say that. But isn't part of the problem the confidence or the lack of confidence in the service that the public does not buy into their capability, so that does not participate, and part of that lack of confidence in this case in particular is a vacuum of any information whatsoever. And we're not naive. We understand information has to be guarded because it's an ongoing investigation, and strategic because you don't want to tip off the perpetrators. But some information, measured and strategic, will give the public a sense of comfort or a sense of progress.
Well, Paul, I've said that repeatedly, and in fact, these weekly police press briefings, they sometimes, I think, have the potential to do more of a disservice to the police service than to do good. Because if every week you are coming and simply saying, we are working on it, we are making progress, but the public has no details, nothing that they can, at least latch on to say, well, look, yes, they've interviewed 3 persons, this week. One being a banker, one being an accountant, one being a medical doctor.
Sure.
That you can give that type of information without compromising the integrity or sanctity of your investigation. So at least the public will know that you have done this. But when you simply come and say, oh, we are working on it, rest assured, we are on top of it.
Sensitive stage.
Yes, and oh, that's the next thing. We can't say anything more because it's a matter of national security, and things are at a sensitive stage.
But if you said